So this is going to be a self-moderated conversation. So I'm super curious to hear the questions that you all have for each other and the insights you're able to share. So I will leave you to it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, all right. Well, dang, we're just thrown right in the deep end. Cool. Should we go through introductions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll start. So yeah, as my shirt says, I'm part of Near Protocol. What I do there is I'm sort of running our DevX efforts. That's developer experience. I say it so much, sometimes I forget what it means. So ecosystem is pretty much front and forefront, front and center in my mind.
So I'm Jacob with TQ Tezos. Been with sort of working around the Tezos project since 2018. A lot of our work's been sort of worn a lot of different hats over the time, but a lot of our focus has been also on like sort of growing out like a developer ecosystem. Sort of working with folks who are building, sort of like sort of building new tools and applications, and then getting sort of getting people on board onto the platform, whether it's sort of people deploying assets or trying out different sample use cases. And we have a huge number of sort of have this growing number of folks who are sort of currently deploying on testnet, and soon will be deploying their applications on Mainnet. We're pretty excited to see that sort of come full circle.
My name is Colin Everin. My friends call me Proto Colin. I've been at Protocol Labs since 2017, mostly focused on ecosystem and operations. And so Protocol Labs is a team that works on a few different types of projects, including IPFS, which is a content addressing system that makes the web peer-to-peer, libp2p, the underlying networking layer for a lot of the decentralized web, and Filecoin, which I'm currently very focused on, which is a decentralized storage network where miners can provide efficiently priced, geographically distributed storage to the network, and clients can verifiably store their data in a way that they control.
Cool. Super cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess I didn't really mention. So if you're not familiar, Near Protocol is a layer 1. So yeah, sharded, scalable, blah, 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 all that stuff. I think a lot of folks in at least this event are going to know. I don't have to explain too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you, so when you think of like DevX, you're like mostly thinking about like, basically what would make someone choose Near versus any other platform, and also just, thinking very heavily around like, what does it look like for existing folks there? How do you improve the core platform? Because I think it's an interesting topic in the context of like decentralization too. It's like, who has access to that data? Like, how does that feedback get, because if you think about Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Like a lot of how you know what I mean? Like there's sort of a lot of potential for big surface for people to disagree on what the future of the project looks like, how you sort of surface and identify and prioritize different things like that. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So Zucky talked about this a while back.
Yeah.
That's Zuckymanian from Cosmos. Just trying to be explicit and not assume a bunch of people know what we're talking about. Start naming. But he was mentioning that in so many words, decisions got more complex as they moved forward because alignment was harder to find, right? Like at the beginning, it was all about launching Mainnet and having like getting this big idea to work. And then later things became complex because you had to reason about the priority of stuff based on requirements. So we're in a similar boat right now. Like we're lucky enough to have extreme alignment. So to answer your question directly, developer experience is like all the way down to core. So how we did our account system was entirely with the developer experience in mind, right? That's why we didn't just expose public keys and say, go for it. We like built this whole account system, which was very hard and it took a lot of time, but it was specifically for making it easier for people to build stuff. But now we're getting to this point where a lot of these core features, we technically launched Mainnet, right? Although it's phase 0 and we're moving to phase 1. But even so, we finished all of these core features and now we're looking ahead of like, well, what do we do? And it's turned back into, rather than this very blockchain specific kind of solving technical problems, it's back to the polar side of like, how do you develop a good product? Which is always what I've cared a lot about. I've never been really blockchainy, so to speak. I've always been really into how do we build good products, which just to fanboy out here is like IPFS is like, in my mind, like a really good product. That's something that I've always like, I'm a huge fan. So, that I think we need more of that kind of stuff. And that's how I view developer experience. And we're lucky at Near, like pretty much everyone's on the same page for that. Yeah.
Jacob,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
go ahead.
I was going to ask, Tezos has been, live for a while now. I'm curious what ecosystem development meant to you in the early days and how that's evolved, since
Yeah,
you guys launched
my God.
Mainnet.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. So, when we first started, there was, I think, yeah, I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Like, first is that, the project comes from a very academic, sort of foundation. It also comes, like, there's a lot of folks who are involved in, like, the creation of different programming languages, Camel, and others, sort of who have been involved, in the creation of the protocol, from early on, very involved with, like, French academia, stuff like that. But like the goals of the project, I think, are very much like, and if you read like the white paper, for example, there's a huge discussion around like, sort of thinking about it in the context of Bitcoin and less so of Ethereum. But in the time since, the white paper was written versus when the project came to mainnet, in 2018, there was obviously like the whole emergence of Ethereum. And so you have, sort of this sort of underlying smart contract language, Michelson, that was sort of originally designed to be like a better a better version of Bitcoin script that based on functional programming properties and being easy to verify and stuff like that. But like what I think the demand in terms of like building applications has shown is that everyone really wants is like really nice abstraction and things like that. And so all the effort very early on and it continues, but we've really turned the corner on has been a huge focus on abstraction and how do you sort of make it easy to build on the way that Ethereum is without sort of introducing the risks of scaling up to thousands or tens of thousands of developers, being really on permission in terms of like the skills that you need to participate, and how do you do that safely. And so that's been a big focus of a lot of these teams. And there's been like a big focus on having like really good testing tools, really good verification tools, like really things like that. But there's also obviously from an accessibility standpoint, we've been working with Truffle and other folks. We just launched Fortmatic support, which I now called Magic, so I have to call it Magic. To really sort of try to get some of these, developer experience tools and applications that, can help with abstraction and get it to that point. Actually, on the topic of IPFS, that's actually something we've been thinking about a lot recently on our team specifically, in that, we think that there's sort of been a like that Ethereum like applications and Ethereum standards have really struggled in terms of how you put facilitating getting things like metadata for tokens or contracts and things like that onto things like IPFS. And so we've been putting a lot of effort into thinking about like, what does it look like for someone to, when they go to deploy a contract, like not have to think about like, how do I get this other data, this metadata onto IPFS? Like, how do we abstract it, or at least have similar, schemas or sort of APIs for interacting with that metadata. And so that's been a lot of our recent thinking too, is like, trying to avoid the pitfalls of some of the things that happen on Ethereum, like, which although they work really well, we don't want, if you have a new platform, like why would you, sort of fall, and things are just really deploying, like we don't have that kind of path dependence. So a lot of thinking too is like, how do we avoid putting too much data on the chain and using things like IPFS and that sort of thing. And one question I would ask, bounce back to you, Colin, is how you guys are thinking about how IPFS would evolve once there's incentivization and once things like Filecoin emerge. Like, how do you think like things like, how do you think people will sort of engage with it? Is it just that there will be more supply? Will there be other kinds of characteristics? Will it be more available? Like, what do we think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I think we'll continue investing in IPFS as an independent project, even separate from Filecoin, and we'll be able to even dedicate some more resources and stuff into doing that. And so, IPFS has been growing in a whole bunch of different areas, from DeFi to data to identity to marketplaces to social media, et cetera. Browsers have really adopted IPFS natively now. Opera has it natively in the browser, and Brave's kind of getting there as well. And then we have like, what I'm most excited about is like, we now have applications that you don't even notice they're on a decentralized stack that are on IPFS. So like, Fleek, for example, it's like a one-click deploy a website to IPFS. Like anyone can do it. Audius, which is this like music streaming platform, you don't even notice it's a Web3 product. And Haven Open Bazaar is a marketplace around that. So really, when we think about Filecoin and the cross between IPFS and what we're trying to launch for Mainnet is we're trying to make it like really easy for any IPFS decentralized application to use Filecoin as a persistent storage layer, and like really, really easy, really integrated with that tech stack. But we'll continue to invest in IPFS and the performance improvements there so that folks can use it completely independently of Filecoin as well. Yeah, and so a lot of the tooling that you mentioned, Jacob, that makes things easy to preserve things to IPFS or Filecoin. We're exploring a lot of those that make it really easy. And so not all those things are live yet, but we've started with this kind of API, storage API called PowerGate that makes it really easy to put
go and build that like new government. So.
Yeah, but I think the thing that and Ashley, looks like Ashley's coming to end the party, but no, I was just gonna say the thing that I think is the parting thought I was just gonna say is like I think it's really cool that like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these new protocols like basically have blown the door open, and like it's really like getting to the point where someone can actually do these things without fear that their thing is gonna get shut down, or that there's somebody who's gonna destroy it or take it away or whatever. And I think that's really like the thing that's like underappreciated, and there's like a lot of people who are like, especially like sort of the VC like folks who are like really interested in just like like how do these things operate as businesses and stuff like that. And there's just like really like the most foundational thing is to have that that the ability to basically build on top of those sort of like robust like neutral platforms, and I think maintaining that is I think there's been like in 2018, it was like really popular for people to talk about a lot of these topics, I think. And I've heard it less and less over the past like couple years. But I think we should like sort of be thinking more and more about like how do we make sure these platforms don't get co-opted? How do we make sure that they remain neutral and stuff like that? And I definitely think like a lot of those things are gonna devolve like all at once, and we should really make sure that we can protect what we have in terms of neutral underlying protocol.
Just a note on that. There's formidable power in that, right? And it's power is a scary word because power doesn't come with moral baggage of good or bad. Power is power. So there's formidable power in creating a platform where people can do whatever the hell they want, right? And like create a new government because some people are idiots, and so and that's my opinion, right? Like they think I'm an idiot. So we're both here looking across this line saying you're an idiot at each other, and both of us have now the power to go and build a thing and attract people to it and own it. And there's like a censorship resistant platform is moderate it and regulate it. So
and more importantly, literally build in your own set of values into the protocols that you built, right? That seems to be like the most important part. The first awareness I had of IPFS and what attracted me to the project was a few of the humanitarian use cases. That it was, there was a referendum in Catalonia, and the government was basically blocking IP addresses that gave folks information on how to vote, and they put those websites on IPFS, and all of a sudden, through a peer-to-peer mechanism, you couldn't stop that. Same thing happened in Turkey, where Wikipedia was blocked in Turkey from its just centrally, and through a different type of protocol, all of a sudden everyone had access to that. And so those are the types of amazing kind of use cases that like really get everyone excited beyond kind of like the protocol level discussion that we often revert to.
Yeah, that's so cool, right? Those are like very real and tangible use cases.
This is awesome, guys.
Sweet, cool, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I think we can probably wind down. I don't want to take up too much ever.
Yeah, I gotta jump shortly, but yeah.
But thanks, Ben, for letting us finish that thought.
Yeah, and thanks Ashley for organizing this, and for everyone who joined to view it. Just super humbling to be, surrounded by this kind of company and this kind of audience that's super passionate about these topics. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Just to plug my stuff is if you guys are interested in building on top of a new cool blockchain thing, go to near.org. And then if you want to look at examples, it's near.dev to see what we're doing in the DevX team. So that's my plug. Oh yeah, and thanks, Mr.
Take care,
for
everyone.
hosting the whole event.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
What you said.
I guess we'll just jump off.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. All. Yeah.